For many, Santa Claus is a symbol of joy and childhood wonder. But what if I told you that behind the jolly mask of red and white, there are chilling tales that can haunt even the bravest of hearts? Tonight, we delve into 5 of the most disturbing true stories involving Santa. Tales that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about Christmas. It was a snowy Christmas Eve in 1994 when 10-year-old Lisa heard a knock at the door. Her parents were busy setting up gifts, and Lisa, curious, peeked out the window. A man dressed as Santa stood outside, waving and smiling. At first glance, it seemed like a festive neighbor playing a prank. But there was something unsettling about his smile, too wide, too forced. Lisa tried to tell her parents, but they dismissed her concerns, assuring her it was probably someone celebrating the holiday spirit. However, as the night progressed, Lisa's unease grew. The same Santa returned, this time without knocking. He just stood there, staring at their house. The family dog, a usually calm Labrador, began growling at the door, a behavior Lisa had never seen before. Her father, now suspicious, decided to confront the man. He opened the door, but there was no one there. Oddly, there were no footprints in the snow outside. The family assumed it was their imagination playing tricks, but Lisa couldn't shake the image of that eerie smile. Later that night, Lisa woke up to the faint sound of jingling bells. The sound wasn't coming from outside, it was inside the house. She tiptoed to her parents' room, but before she could wake them, she saw a shadowy figure in the hallway. The man in the Santa suit stood there, holding a single red glove. Her scream woke her parents, but by the time they turned on the lights, the figure had vanished. They searched the house but found no trace of him. All they found was the red glove placed neatly under the Christmas tree. To this day, Lisa's family doesn't know how he got inside or what his true intentions were that night. Some believe it was a deranged individual targeting families during the holidays, while others think it was something far more supernatural. The story remains a chilling reminder that not everything about Christmas is cheerful. Lisa, now an adult, recalls how her family began noticing strange occurrences every December after that night. Doors would creak open on their own, the dog would growl at empty spaces, and one year, they found a single blackened piece of coal in Lisa's stocking. Was it a warning? A message? The family moved shortly afterward, but Lisa claims the eerie presence followed them to their new home. In her late teens, Lisa confided in a friend about her childhood encounter. To her shock, the friend revealed a similar experience with a man in a Santa suit, down to the haunting red glove. They speculated whether this figure was some kind of malevolent spirit tied to the holiday, feeding off the fear of children. Even now, Lisa avoids celebrating Christmas traditionally. She says the sight of Santa Claus decorations sends shivers down her spine. Whether it was a human intruder or something otherworldly, the memory of that night has left an indelible mark on her. Would you open the door if Santa came knocking at midnight? Let me know in the comments. In 2011, a bustling shopping mall in Wisconsin hired a Santa Claus impersonator for their annual holiday event. The man was perfect for the role, jovial, charismatic, and great with children. Parents praised his ability to keep their kids entertained, and he quickly became a favorite among the crowd. However, a series of unsettling incidents began to surface. Parents reported that their children were acting strangely after meeting Santa. Some kids were unusually quiet, refusing to talk about their experience, while others had nightmares about a man with a crooked smile. One mother, while unpacking her child's jacket, found a folded piece of paper in the pocket. The note, written in messy handwriting, read, "Be good, or I'll see you tonight." It was signed simply as Santa. Alarmed, the woman contacted mall security, who reviewed footage of Santa's interactions with the children. What they found was disturbing. The man was slipping notes into the pockets of specific children. When confronted, the Santa claimed it was all part of the act, a harmless joke to keep kids behaving during the holidays. The mall management fired him immediately, but before police could investigate further, the man disappeared. Authorities discovered that he had used a fake name and provided no traceable address. Even more unsettling, the man didn't appear in any official records. Parents in the area remained on edge, fearing the man might return. Stories began circulating about sightings of a man dressed as Santa lurking around neighborhoods, peering into windows late at night. Was he simply a disturbed individual, or was there something more sinister at play? Weeks after his disappearance, police discovered a hidden room in the mall's storage area. Inside were dozens of Santa costumes, a collection of children's toys, and a wall plastered with photographs of the children who had visited him. The authorities couldn't determine how long the man had been operating or what his true motives were. One chilling detail stood out. Among the photos was a group shot of the mall staff taken before the Santa impersonator was hired. In the background of the image, partially obscured, was a man who looked eerily similar to the suspect. Had he been watching them all along? Some parents claim their children continued to receive cryptic notes for months after the event. One child even found a small, crudely carved wooden doll on their windowsill, resembling the man in the Santa suit. To this day, the case remains unsolved, and the mall refuses to comment on the matter. And just when you think that story is unsettling, wait until you hear what happened in our next tale. If these stories have you on the edge of your seat, hit that subscribe button. There are more chilling tales coming your way, and you won't want to miss them. On Christmas Eve in 1987, a family in rural Montana prepared for a quiet holiday. Snow blanketed the ground, and the only sounds were the crackling fireplace and the occasional howl of the wind. Around midnight, the father, a rancher, heard noises coming from the barn. Thinking it was coyotes or other wildlife, he grabbed his shotgun and went to investigate. When he entered the barn, he was shocked to find a man dressed as Santa Claus sitting silently on a bale of hay. The man didn't move or speak. His face was partially obscured by the hat, but his presence was undeniably eerie. The father demanded to know who he was and why he was there, but the man simply turned his head slowly and stared at him with hollow eyes. When the father threatened to call the police, the man stood up, brushed hay off his suit, and walked out of the barn into the dense forest. The father followed him briefly, but lost sight of him in the thick snow. What was most disturbing was the lack of footprints leading away from the barn, despite the fresh snowfall. The next morning, the family awoke to find strange symbols carved into the barn walls. Inside the house, they discovered several wrapped gifts under their tree, gifts they hadn't placed there. Each box contained bizarre items: a blackened piece of coal, an antique doll with missing eyes, and a torn page from an old Bible. To this day, the family is convinced they were visited by something otherworldly that night. Every Christmas Eve since, they hear faint jingles coming from the barn, but they've never dared to investigate again. In the weeks following that Christmas, the family began experiencing unexplainable phenomena. Tools in the barn would be found rearranged, animals refused to enter certain areas, and the youngest daughter claimed to hear whispers whenever she went near the tree. The symbols carved into the barn were eventually identified by a local historian as ancient runes associated with protection and curses. The historian couldn't explain why they were there, but warned the family to avoid disturbing them further. Despite the warning, the father attempted to sand them down one summer. That night, the family was awakened by loud banging on their windows, but no one was outside. Years later, after the family had moved, The new owners of the property reported similar encounters. They found a hidden compartment in the barn containing a faded photograph of a man in a Santa suit, dated 1932. Was it the same man who visited the family in 1987? And if so, what was his purpose? Do you believe in omens? Some say they're warnings, others say they're curses. What do you think? In 2004, a couple in upstate New York decided to throw a festive holiday party. To add a touch of magic, they hired a professional Santa impersonator to entertain their guests and their children. The man arrived promptly, delighted the crowd, and was last seen heading toward the kitchen for a glass of water before the party ended. As the night wound down and the couple cleaned up, they realized they hadn't seen the Santa leave. Assuming he had slipped out quietly, they locked up and went to bed. But over the next few days, strange occurrences began to disrupt their peace. Decorations were mysteriously moved, and the family dog started growling at seemingly empty corners of the house. Late one night, the wife was startled awake by faint laughter coming from the attic. Her husband dismissed it as her imagination, but when the sounds persisted, they decided to investigate. In the attic, they found the Santa suit crumpled in a corner, along with a journal filled with cryptic notes and unsettling sketches of their family members. What was most chilling was a final entry in the journal. "I'll be back next year." The couple moved out of the house before the next Christmas, but the story followed them. Friends who visited their old home claimed they heard laughter coming from the attic, even though the house was supposedly empty. One chilling night before they moved, the couple's young nephew, visiting for dinner, pointed at the attic door and said, "Santa's watching us." The adults dismissed it as a child's imagination, but the boy insisted, describing a man in a red suit sitting at the top of the stairs. In the following weeks, they discovered small, bizarre items appearing in their home: an old, rusted sleigh bell, a tiny key, and a single red mitten. These items were never theirs and seemed to appear out of nowhere. The final straw came when the wife found a mirror in the attic with "Merry Christmas" scrawled across it in what appeared to be ash. After moving, the couple thought they were free from the ordeal. However, every Christmas Eve, they receive an anonymous card signed, "Yours forever, Santa." Whether it's a prank or a lingering spirit, they can't escape the memory of that unsettling Christmas. But what they found next turned their fear into pure terror. If this story is giving you chills, drop a comment below. And don't forget to share this video with someone who loves creepy tales. In 2018, a single mother named Grace was tucking her kids into bed on Christmas Eve when her youngest, a 7-year-old boy, said something that sent a chill down her spine. "Mommy, Santa's outside my window," he whispered. Grace, assuming it was a figment of his imagination, humored him and went to check. To her horror, there was indeed a man dressed as Santa standing in their snow-covered yard, staring directly at her. Grace locked the windows and immediately called the police. But by the time they arrived, the man had vanished, leaving only a set of footprints in the snow that led to the backyard, and stopped abruptly. When the officers reviewed Grace's home security footage, they uncovered something even more unsettling. The man hadn't just appeared outside the house, he had been lurking there for hours. The footage showed him moving methodically around the property, peering into windows, and even trying the back door. Later that night, Grace discovered a strange gift left on her front porch, a doll that bore an uncanny resemblance to her daughter. The doll's eyes had been crudely painted red, and a note attached read, "I'm always watching." Terrified, Grace spent the rest of the night in a motel with her children. To this day, she has no idea who the man was or why he targeted her family. All she knows is that every Christmas Eve since, her daughter claims to hear faint jingling outside her window. Over the next few days, Grace noticed more unsettling signs. Her son began waking up in the middle of the night, saying he heard someone calling his name. Neighbors reported seeing a man in a Santa suit walking along the street late at night, but no one could identify him. In a final act of desperation, Grace installed a new security system and left the area. However, just weeks after the move, she found the same doll on her new porch with an identical note. It was as if the figure was taunting her, letting her know that no matter where she went, he would follow. Grace's children, now older, refused to talk about that Christmas Eve. Her daughter has recurring nightmares of a red-clad figure standing at the foot of her bed. The family continues to move every few years, always looking over their shoulders. And that's the thing about Santa. He always knows when you're sleeping and when you're awake. If you enjoyed these stories and want more, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. And don't forget to let me know in the comments which story haunted you the most. Stay safe and have a chilling Christmas.